What is up, Diecast Racing fans? Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. What better time is it than today to see a champion get crowned right here on the HSL Diecast Racing channel? We are here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's about 98 degrees while the rest of the country is covered in snow, but it's a million times hotter on the track today because we have two hugely successful drivers ready to face off for the NASCAR NITRO Series Championship. You're looking at your only two multi-race winners in NASCAR NITRO Series history. And the margin between them is smaller than the margin between first and second place. Ross Chastain stormed his way to a 200-point lead by the end of Week 7 with 5 consecutive podiums, including back-to-back victories at Texas and Riverside. Some bad luck in the last few races, coupled with Sterling Marlin's second win of the season at Talladega, has made this a 33-point race with just one race to go. This is Game 7. This is the name of that big football game I can't say for copyright reasons. This is for all the bragging rights in the HSL multiverse. Can't believe I said that again. You can see the Waltrip brothers with our championship drivers again. I'm sure whatever they're talking about down there makes for some really good TV. But you know what makes even better TV? What you're about to see. Let's kick this off with segment 1. Your points leader, Ross Chastain, got the pole position. He blazed through his qualifying lap on the fresh surface, 4/10 faster than the next driver. Him and Matt Kenseth are neck and neck heading into turns 1 and 2. Todd Bodine gives him a shove to push him past Matt Kenseth for a full car length lead. Actually, Sterling Marlin's his teammate. Don't know why he did that, but he does move up from third to second. With the way the second half of his season's going, I guess he just wants his best shot at a win. Anyway, for lap 2, Matt Kenseth jumped the guardrail late in that last lap, so he's going to fall all the way to 4th place. And don't be shocked if Richard Petty steals second here, because those two cars in the inner lane are a lot heavier than the two cars in the outer lane. Todd Bodine's trying to make an aggressive path for the lead, and he flips on his roof. That's another El Reco. Didn't even have to wait till the last lap of this segment. His season is done. 3 laps to go in this segment. Ross Chastain stays in the driver's seat. That was the fastest car that could have challenged him that just wrecked. And he knows that a trip to the main event for him would make winning the championship a whole heck of a lot easier than if he had to fight through the seconds race and all other stuff. In the background, Richard Petty and Matt Kenseth are beating each other up for second place, and Ross Chastain is loving it. It is lap 4. Nothing has changed. Ross Chastain in first, Petty in second, Kenseth in third. And Richard Petty actually gets a jump off the line there. They are still side by side in the turn. Ross Chastain with the lower lane uses that to his advantage and comes out with a car length lead. That was the closest lap so far in this segment. 1 lap to go. Ross Chastain and Richard Petty battling for a spot in the main event. And Matt Kenseth is there too, just hanging out in the back, playing it safe. And the gates are down. Richard Petty comes out with the lead. They're side by side heading into the turn. And Ross Chastain uses that inside lane to his advantage again. He's got a 3-4 car length lead. And he knew the gravity of the situation. He flew away from the rest of the crowd. 5 or 6 car length lead. Ross Chastain to the main event. Now it's time for segment 2. Ricky Rudd might have qualified second for the race, but all the focus is going to be on Sterling Marlin, who made his way in on points. He might be starting third in the segment, but he zips past Martin Truex Jr. and throws a block to preserve second place for lap 2. As Ricky Rudd runs away with that one, he'll be starting lap 2 in first. And Sterling Marlin's got a tough task ahead of him for this one. It is really tough to pass on the outside here. Ross Chastain reverse side drafted Richard Petty every single lap in the last segment. Todd Bodine tried doing it on the back stretch and ended up on his lid. Now the gates are down and the pack is glued together heading into the turns. And Ricky Rudd continues to pull away. He turns sideways to throw a block on Truex and Marlin. Jimmy's just there hanging out in the background. And it looks like Truex got there for second place. Now it is time for lap 3. The gates are down and the outer lane gets some pretty big pushback. That lets Sterling Marlin pass them with ease heading into the turns. And they exit the turn like ducks in a straight line. Sterling Marlin gets by for second, but Martin Truex is charging up there to retake second place, and he gets it on the outside, what Todd Bodine couldn't do earlier. Martin Truex does. A bit of an exciting end for lap 3. The positions don't change at all, but don't let that fool you. We have ourselves one heck of a race in this segment. And with 2 to go, Sterling Marlin zips past Truex again, and now he's trying to make a move for the lead, trying to move Ricky Rudd out of his way, and they get side by side, and it's too close to call. We're going to have to zoom in, and it looks like Sterling Marlin got it. That is right. Sterling Marlin takes the lead at the very last second. He's going to start the final lap in first place. And here's a slow motion replay of the pass that could potentially decide the championship. If you look here, he's got almost a full car length to make up. It is flat ground, straight track. Somehow he powers his way past Ricky Rudd, who has identical chassis, identical axles, and he beats him by less than a bumper length. He will have a major advantage with one to go. And we're actually starting this lap with 3 cars. If you look back on that replay, Jimmy bins it coming out of the turns, but everybody's attention was on that finish. And now Ricky Rudd's trying to say it doesn't matter, but Sterling Marlin reverse side drafts him in the turn, pulls away with more than a car length lead. And Sterling Marlin will move on to the main event to challenge Ross Chastain for the championship. This championship battle is far from over. And now it is time for segment 3. We have Bill Elliott and David Green on the front row, Johnson Jr. and Johnny Benson in the back. 4 guys battling it out just for bragging rights. David Green and Bill Elliott looking for a little bit of redemption in a season full of bad luck. Johnson Jr. and Johnny Benson looking to be the next driver to get 2 career wins. Now David Green leads that lap easily. Johnson Jr. gets by Bill Elliott for second place. Time for lap 2. The gates are down and they're pretty tightly packed heading into the fat track portion. And Johnson Jr. actually gets past David Green before they even get into the turns. Now David Green throws a block to try and preserve second place, and it looks like he'll be successful as nobody but Johnson Jr. crosses the line on this lap, and not even he gets there. Spent all his energy making the pass, but he will have the lead for lap 3. And lap 3 is on, the gates are down, and it's a tight race heading into the turn. Bill Elliott, I don't know what he does, but he gets sideways, heads up the track like he's Tony Hawk or something, flips on his roof, and it's a double DNF because David Green gets squeezed off the track. He bins it too, and that's a double DNF on lap 3. Johnson Jr. runs away with the lap. Both of these drivers had horrible luck this season, tons of DNFs, and now both of their nightmare seasons mercifully come to a close. As you can see, the camera panned towards David Green's wreckage. We're going to take you over to Bill Elliott momentarily. Both of these cars were fast for several of their qualifying runs. And Bill Elliott's mid-season casting switch did not do him much good. Got him a podium earlier in the year, but other than that, it's just been DNF after DNF after DNF. And now it is time for lap 4. These last 2 laps are going to be a 1v1 drag race between Johnny Benson and Johnson Jr. One of these established stars, race winners, whatever you want to call them, are going to be moving on to the main event, provided that there's not another double DNF or something. And they look smooth coming out of the gate. Johnson Jr. has a 3-4 car length lead heading into the final lap. And he makes easy work of Johnny Benson. He's going to start the final lap with the huge advantage of the inside lane. Johnny Benson's car has really slowed down the last couple weeks, and that backlash from the gate is not going to help him at all. But Johnson Jr. gets squirrely there. Johnny Benson tries to make a move underneath, but ends up on his side. He gets a little too greedy there, almost flips, but he manages to salvage it for the seconds race. Johnson Jr. actually flirting with disaster right before the line, but he saves himself. Johnson Jr. to the main event. And now it is time for segment number 4. In the front row, we have Vinnie Oonce Nightlife in that new car, which, if you saw the qualifying video, was not a good financial decision for him. Next to him is E. Marshall. Behind them is Kaz Gralla and Ricky Craven. Kaz Gralla, the only driver with a win in this group. But in this segment, he can't stay on the track for lap 1, hits the infield pole. And Vinnie Nightlife soars away with lap number 1. E. Marshall in second, Ricky Craven in third. And now it is time for lap 2. Vinnie Oonce Nightlife in the driver's seat here. That first lap was one of the fastest laps a driver's run on this track so far. Him and E. Marshall are trying to battle it out, and E. Marshall flips on his lid. He has really tanked this season, and he bins it trying to make some magic happen, and now it's a double DNF. Kaz Gralla's on his roof too. He goes over the guardrail, and what can you say? It is the day of the double DNF. Now we've had double DNFs in back-to-back segments, and you can watch here in slow motion both of them. Here's the prior segment. Bill Elliott decides somehow to play Tony Hawk Pro Skater, while David Green gets dumped by Johnny Benson off the side of the guardrail. Both of them fast but top-heavy castings, just like Kaz Gralla and E. Marshall. Now, if you watch the qualifying video, Vinnie Oonce Nightlife needs a podium in this race, so he'll have to choose between racing and partying, and you know he doesn't want to do that. He executes a perfect reverse side draft on E. Marshall, and that flips him over. Kaz Grala just can't stay on this track for whatever reason. The first lap, he bounced off the outfield telephone pole. Second lap, he wasn't so lucky and ends up on his lid. Two more drivers just happy to see their downward spiral finally come to an end. And Vinnie Nightlife is 3 mistake-free laps away from heading to the main event again. With how fast he's been and how slow Ricky Craven's gotten in the second half of the season, Vinnie Nightlife's only threat to get into the main event is himself. And he does get a little squirrely on the backstretch, but he crosses the line before anything bad could happen. Now it's 2 laps to go. Vinnie, Oonce, Nightlife has this segment under control. He gets a car length and a half lead before the cars even reach the fat track, and it is more dominance for Vinnie Nightlife heading into the final lap of this segment. He leads that lap by 2 whole track sections, sailing smoothly down the center of the track. Ricky Craven barely finishes, and the gates are down. Vinnie Nightlife parties his way to a car length lead before he even reaches the fat track again. Ricky Craven putting up a little bit more of a fight, gets a little too aggressive and spins out. Vinnie, Oonce, Nightlife to the main event. Ricky Craven to the seconds race. Now it is time for our final segment. We have Jeff Fuller on the pole here, Morgan Shepherd in second, 2 race winners, Alan Kulwicki and Jeremy Mayfield in the back. They're in on points. And it is a tight pack heading into the turn. All year long, these Hot Wheels castings have been faster than their Racing Champions counterparts, so they'll have a tough task ahead of them. And the Racing Champions are not making it easy. They pull away, and Jeff Fuller tries to throw a block, but it's a horrible block. He gets dumped off the track by Morgan Shepherd, and the referees say his rear wheel was on the guardrail. He'll be starting this lap in 4th place. Morgan Shepherd with the lead. And Alan Kulwicki jumps off to a good start now that he has some clean air. Morgan Shepherd uses the inside lane to his advantage and reverse side drafts him. Throws a block to keep the lead. And there's an El Recco behind them with Jeremy Mayfield. His season is now over. As the camera pans over his wreckage, and Morgan Shepherd was tied for last place in points most of the season. Missed a whole bunch of races because his original car exploded during a qualifying lap. He is 3 laps away now from getting to his very first career main event, and he is using that inside lane to his advantage again. He is just putting on a masterclass of the reverse side draft, as this pack racing is the tightest we've seen all day, and we've seen some really close racing. Now he is just 2 laps away from reaching the main event. Alan Kulwicki gets a great start off the gate. The inside lane gets some pushback. Alan Kulwicki has almost a full car length lead, and they are drag racing to the finish line, and it looks like Alan Kulwicki is going to get the upper hand. And we're actually going to take a look at the replay here. It was a dead heat for second place, and you can see Kulwicki there make that difficult outer lane pass, and Morgan Shepherd still has a chance here. He is fighting for it, trying to catch back up, but look at Jeff Fuller at the very end. Jeff Fuller gets there. That is a disastrous lap for Morgan Shepherd. First to third on lap 4. He is going to need some Santa Claus magic to get back into this on the final lap. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Alan Kulwicki has a full car length lead over everybody else. And they are forming a straight line headed towards the finish. Looks like Morgan Shepherd's trying to throw a block on Jeff Fuller. And Alan Kulwicki, his last race in that blue car, will be heading to the main event. Morgan Shepherd recovers to make the seconds race. And Jeff Fuller, based on his qualifying speed, will lead the thirds race down to green, followed by Matt Kenseth and Martin Truex Jr. And Fuller and Kenseth are neck and neck heading into turn. Then Fuller reverse side drafts Matt Kenseth, then does it again and throws the block, keeps the lead. Very close race for second place, but it looks like Matt Kenseth got it. Now, 1 lap to go in the thirds race. The gates are down, and Matt Kenseth gets some pushback from the start gate. And they are crammed together on the track like sardines right now. Martin Truex Jr. passes Kenseth for second place, and Jeff Fuller is loving this. Martin Truex Jr. throws the block to save 1 extra point, and that leads Jeff Fuller into the seconds race. And Jeff Fuller chooses because apparently it looks like Johnny Benson chose the outside for whatever reason, and Ricky Rudd is seeing all the chaos behind him, and he's enjoying this. And if you look behind him, Morgan Shepherd gets thrown off the track by Ricky Craven, and we got a double El Recco. Jeff Fuller's stay in the second race is a short one, and he takes out Johnny Benson with him. I guess it doesn't matter which way they were positioned on the track, because both of them are on their roofs. Their season is completely 100% over. Now here's a closer shot at the wreckage. Both of them landed on the inside of the backstretch, almost hit some of the next year's field fillers. And it's a 4-man race heading into lap 2. Ricky Rudd has the lead. He led that first lap in a dominant fashion. And it looks like he's going to lead this one too. Him and Richard Petty get off to a great start, and Ricky Rudd flips over. That is an El Reco for Ricky Rudd. Even if one of these other cars knocks him onto his wheels, his season is over because Richard Petty has a clear shot into the main event. Morgan Shepherd squeezes by Rudd's overturned car as well, and a valiant effort for him after choking away the lead with a lap to go in his segment. And now, this is the moment everybody's been waiting for. The final main event of the year. Sterling Marlin starting right behind Ross Chastain on the inside lane to start lap 1. This right here is going to decide the 2024 NASCAR NITRO Series Championship. And the gates are down, one of the quickest releases I've ever seen. Cars are jockeying all over the place for position. Ross Chastain goes flying. Caution is out. Huge El Reco. The crash to end all crashes. At least 3 DNFs. The biggest big one in the history of the NASCAR Nitro Series happens on lap 1, and the championship race is over. Whether or not Ross Chastain recovered, Sterling Marlin is on his roof. He had the deficit. His day is done. He'll be credited with 5th place. Johnson Jr. and Richard Petty survive the carnage and remain on the track on their wheels. Vinnie Nightlife is out. Alan Kulwicki is out. Vinnie Nightlife is going to fall one position short of the podium. But everyone's eyes, including the camera, are on Sterling Marlin. Look at this wreckage. What a disaster of a lap. Vinnie Nightlife on his roof. Camera should be panning to Alan Kulwicki pretty soon. Here it is. He is on his roof. Their seasons are all done. And if you looked in the corner there, Ross Chastain recovered and is on his wheels. That is your podium. Somewhere between him, Johnson Jr., and Richard Petty, that is going to be your podium. Ross Chastain in the blue Uno is going to be your 2024 Nitro Series champion. And we're going to watch this in slow motion. Vinnie Oonce Nightlife tries to move to the bottom of the track, squeezes Ross Chastain, who jumps over top of him and knocks him over. Johnson Jr. does the same to Sterling Marlin. We've seen cars jamming together like sardines in that section of the track all race long, and when you have 6 of the fastest cars in the series, the stakes are never higher. This is everybody's last chance to add wins to their stat sheets. Crazy things tend to happen, and that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen out on the track. And now, after devoting all this time to the anarchy of the last lap, it is time for lap 2 of 5 in this main event. Ross Chastain is your champion, and if he wins today, it is just gravy. Richard Petty, of course, still looking for his very first NASCAR Nitro Series win, but Johnson Jr. throws a perfect reverse side draft on both Chastain and Petty. I don't think I've ever seen a double reverse side draft like that be successful ever before, but he ends up with a 2-car length lead at the end of that one. Now with 3 to go, Johnson Jr.'s taken off. It doesn't look like anybody has anything for him because Richard Petty's just trying to throw a block and maintain second place here. His lead is growing every second. It's almost a full section of track now. Richard Petty beats out Ross Chastain for second place on lap 3. And now 2 to go. The gates are down. Richard Petty gets some serious pushback from the start gate, and Ross Chastain's going to take advantage of that. He's going to draft on the back of Johnson Jr., tries to move him out of the way. It doesn't work, but the champ remains glued to Johnson Jr.'s back bumper. That's the most aggression I've seen from him in this main event, and he'll be starting the final lap in second place, ready to pounce if either of the drivers in the inner lane makes a mistake. Is it going to be Johnson Jr., the champion Ross Chastain, or the final first-time winner of the year, Richard Petty? And it looks like potential first-time winner should be more suitable. Richard Petty punts Johnson Jr. to the lead and then throws a block to preserve second place. Johnson Jr. is your winner at Las Vegas. The third 2-time race winner after our first and second place drivers in points. Who knows what he could have did if he ran the full season. There is your podium. Johnson Jr. the winner. Richard Petty starts the season with a second place finish and ends the season with a second place finish. And your 2024 NASCAR Nitro Series champion, Ross Chastain, in third. Here he is in the winner's circle. Give it up for the blue Uno. He wins the overall points championship by 53 over Sterling Marlin. He finished on the podium in exactly half of the races. That is correct. Half of the races were a podium finish. 2 wins and 3 second place finishes. All those second places while Sterling Marlin was getting 7th or 8th. Was the difference when it mattered. Congratulations, Ross Chastain, 2024 champion. And here are your race results. Johnson Jr., your winner. Then you have Richard Petty, Ross Chastain, Vinnie Nightlife, one position shy of the podium. But it doesn't matter. That car is fast. I'm going to bet on it for one of my stocks in the official Nitro Series. It's not going to be a field filler. I will be polishing and graphiting those wheels alongside Rusty Wallace and two other drivers that I'm going to introduce in the driver introductions video in early February. Now, if we take a look at the points, you'll see Ross Chastain won by 53 over Sterling Marlin, almost 200, 190 to be exact over Johnny Benson, and a $193 over Kulwicki. Some of the other would-be title contenders like Jimmy, Kaz Gralla, Todd Bodine all really fell off and spiraled hard in the second half of the year. While guys like Johnson Jr. came on strong, also Martin Truex and Swervin' Irvin, they didn't make it into the top 12, but they still were looking pretty good in the last couple of races. If you look at the second half of the points, let's see David Green in 21st place. Some of the worst luck in the series. Ran all but 2 races, I believe. DNF'd in most of them. Got some pole positions, some really good qualifying runs. You can see Morgan Shepherd pulled himself out of the 30s with that strong run in the seconds race. And Stacey Compton finishing last in his only career start gets him last place. And now the most exciting part of the video of it all, my shameless plug of the NASCAR Nitro Series Season 2 on Redline Derby. It's still not too late to mail your cars in. We have over a month to go before I start filming. A couple of our cars have already gotten here, and I know there's more on the way. The full details, of course, are going to be in the description. Remember to mail your cars to HSL Diecast, P.O. Box 7, Wind Gap, Pennsylvania, with $10 return postage if you want your cars mailed back. The deadline to get into next year's Daytona 500 qualifying is January 31st, 2025. And as always, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, NASCAR racing fans. We'll see you guys on the track next year.